Welcome to the Westonbirt Design Challenges. Between Hawaii and California, in an area about twice the size of Texas, a large Great Pacific garbage patch has been growing for many years. It looks sort of like a milky consistency from above, but that's because the plastics are spread really far apart and they're made up of large plastics through to small bits and pieces. And actually, there's 5 of these around the whole world. At first, when they were found, it was thought that they were the core place for garbage to gather, but actually, some studies have shown that that may not be the case. They found water bottles, hard hats, bottle lids, toothbrushes, toilet seats, laundry baskets, and all kinds of other bits of plastic floating about in there. This represented about 100,000 tonnes of ocean plastic. However, that might not be the whole story. This represents only 1% of the 8 million tonnes of plastic emitted into oceans every year by humans. So where's the rest? While the enormous garbage patches are the things that make the news, actually there's huge amounts of seafloor microplastics. There are macroplastics, this is big stuff that's sunk, and actually huge amounts of plastics close to shore. Scientists have taken seafloor sediment samples. This one is from the Santa Barbara Basin off the southwest coast of America. This sample goes back as far as 1871 and it was taken in 2009. The part that the scientists were most interested in was 1945 until present day, because that's the era of plastic production. The pieces they found were often less than 1 millimetre across, and as time went on, that amount doubled about every 15 years, and this tracks really well with the rate of plastic production. Microplastics are some of the biggest concerns to humankind. They're typically less than 5 millimetres across, and these can get into the food chain, which is really bad. So they're found in clothing, and they're found when bottles and things like that are rubbing against each other, and they're now found globally all over the world, even in things like plankton. So whilst microplastics are indeed very bad for humans and animals alike, actually there's some other problems that are being noticed. They're finding all sorts of plastic actually on the sea floor, which normally would float. These things are typically less dense than seawater, but actually, over time, they start to gather barnacles, they start to gather other bits of detritus and gradually begin to sink. Studies show that 50% of the plastic rubbish found in dumps would normally sink because it's heavier, it's more dense than seawater. However, the other 50% that would normally float is gradually finding its way to the bottom of the ocean. Scientists have actually been dating the plastic to be able to find out when did it enter the sea and where is it now. And what they're finding is that a lot of the most recent plastic is actually much closer to the seashore than being in the sea itself. And so they're starting to think that actually the large bulk of the plastic is actually much closer to shore than we previously thought. Most of the plastic is within about 100 metres of the shoreline, which means it's constantly being washed back up the beach, back down again, consistently rubbing on itself, breaking it down, and turning into microplastics. So we can see that ocean plastics are found in all sorts of different parts of the ocean, from the shore to the surface, floating on the seabed and actually under the seabed itself. This leads to obvious questions of how the plastic is getting into the sea in the first place, and obviously it's coming from us. The most common plastics found on the beaches are food wrappers, cigarette butts, plastic bottle caps, plastic cups and plates, and they are found in their millions. So clearly this is a huge problem to solve, and we need to tackle it in a number of ways. Better recycling, banning certain plastic items, and taking time to clean up the areas around our seashores. But what more can we do than that? What else can we do with that plastic? How can we turn that rubbish that is already created into something useful? This week we're going to use your afternoon sessions to get really creative and get thinking of ways we can solve these problems. First up, we're going to do a brainstorm for uses for ocean plastics. We'll attempt to turn one of those ideas into a new product brand. We'll teach you how to print t-shirts so you can raise awareness, creating a statement, And finally, we're going to design and build an ocean cleaning machine that can clean the ponds of Westonbirt.